Hello and welcome back to another video. This is going to be the last video of 2021, and for anybody that's already watched my videos, you notice that it's already starting out a little different. Usually there's an intro with some, I don't know if music's the right word, but it definitely has sound, and then I kick it off. But this topic is going to be a little different, and it's a little more difficult for me. I struggled with this for a little while, so please bear with me as I get through this. I've had a couple of rough moments writing it and then going through it in my head, how I would present it. Didn't do very well. So I think that by now I'm hoping that I won't have these issues that I had before. So I should be able to get through it a little smoother. So let's get started. I apologize if you came here looking for a photography video. If none of this is interesting to you, you can, meet us again in the next video. But please stick around if you can. This is an important topic, and one day you may need it to help somebody that's going through some tough times, even if it's not you. I apologize if there's an echo in here. I'm in a friend's garage filming this. My house has a lot of activity today, and I needed to get this done today because I have to edit the video and get it out. It's going to be the end of the year very soon. So, this topic really bothers me. Not bothers me in a way where I dislike people going through this situation, but it bothers me in terms of being able to talk about it really freely. But I committed to this channel verbally in one of my first videos, and I committed to myself when I started doing this stuff that I would be open with anything I had to say and honest about it, and that if I had anything important to say, I would share it. I wouldn't hide anything from you guys. So here it is. And real quick before I go on, one of the reasons I'm struggling with this so much is that I don't like usually putting myself in a vulnerable situation, and this is as vulnerable as I'm going to get on a camera, and it may happen as I get more comfortable, maybe later on, but for now, this is as vulnerable as I want to be, so please understand that as well. So I was reading a story not too long ago, and the story was about a 9-year-old boy that took his life, and that really hit me hard. Don't know the little kid from a hole in the wall, and it was just an article I was reading, and 9 years old. I mean, think about that for a second. 9 years old. Think about what you were doing when you were 9 years old. I was thinking about Santa this time of year. I was playing with my friends. I don't remember having anything that bad going on in my life that stuff like this would cross my mind. And so the first thing I started to do was I started to think, what kind of parents did this kid have? What kind of parents let a little 9-year-old boy get to the point where he has to take his life? What kind of parents are not watching the cues and listening to any signals and having conversations frequently and asking the right questions? And I just don't get it. But you see what I'm doing here, right? I am judging this entire situation, and the light in the garage just went off. If you noticed the little flicker, I apologize for that. I should have turned it off before I got started. I'm judging this entire situation, and I am blaming the parents without even knowing them or the kid or what was going on. I have no idea what happened. So, I think it's the ego. If I had to guess, I'm not a psychologist. It protects us, right? And one of the things it does, it categorizes events and situations that we're in and tries to find ways of preventing us from falling into those problems in the future. So, of course, we're going to categorize it, we're going to judge it, and then we're going to find the blame appropriately so we can either go after that or avoid it, right? But we are now humans living in a pretty advanced society, and we have to, most of the time anyway, and we have to try to keep the ego at bay when it needs to be. So this is not the time for ego. So I need to put that aside. I apologize also ahead of time for the echo. This is a very empty room, it's very big, and I can even hear in my ears the sound going from one to the other. I hope the sound is acceptable. So putting the judgment and the blame aside, what happened here, right? What does a 9-year-old little boy go through, or what can he possibly be going through to take his life? I still have trouble even saying that. So I wrote a couple of things down, right? And I looked into it, of course. I did a little research. One of the things, the big things for a 9-year-old little boy is bullying. There are communication issues at home, right? Sometimes the parents are too busy and don't communicate well, or don't communicate enough. Maybe the little boy was going through some issues and just didn't want to talk about them. Little kids keep secrets too, right? And that's one of the other reasons I talk about communicating. There's of course, the occasional bad parent. And when I get into this topic here, I'm talking about physical abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, whatever, emotional abuse. Yes, there are bad parents. Maybe not even occasionally. Maybe more than we know. But that's another category. Then, of course, there's mental conditions, right? Some of us are born with mental conditions. Some of them, because of trauma or other situations, have them later on. That's another one. And then there's medication. And I don't rule that one out. I remember giving my daughter some pill for some asthma or something, and it said on the thing, may cause severe depression, and I'm thinking, what? Do I even want to give my child this? I mean, adolescent little girls go through their own stuff too, and do I want to add complications to her life? Makes you think, right? So could this little boy have been on medication that was even making his situation worse? Maybe. So I start with the story of this little boy because I guess it's the one that really, woke me up. It's not that I never think about this stuff, I do all the time. And when I read that stuff, I've read about 17-year-old boys and girls, and I've known people at work that have lost their kids for the same reason. And it's got to be, I can't imagine, I just can't imagine being a parent and getting that news, or finding your child, gosh. But this is one story of so many, and we're going to go over some brief numbers just to, make everybody aware. But this is a problem, not even just in the U.S., it's around the world, and there are countries that are in worse situation than the U.S., right? Especially when you look at per capita deaths. But let's go over some numbers just to get an idea. So if you look at this chart, the chart that I'm putting up right now, it basically shows statistics from, I guess, the top countries around the world right now with the highest suicide rates. And the United States is pretty high up, If you look at the bottom there, it's talking about roughly 22 deaths per 100,000. Now, this statistic was from 2019. Some of the other stuff that we're going to be looking at is from 2020, I think 2021. So the numbers aren't exact because I'm pulling different numbers from different times, but it's close enough. It doesn't vary that much every year. And the numbers are still high. Even if you look at the lowest one of those 3 years that I got information from, they're still astronomical. And one death is one death too many. So back to the US, 22 deaths per 100,000, right? Now, if you look at the fact that there are about 331 million people in the US, right? You take 331 million, you divide it by 100,000, and you get 3,310. You multiply that by 22, and that's basically 72,820 deaths in a year by suicide. Now, I don't know what you're thinking. By now, depending on your age, we probably know one person or more than one person that has taken their life, or families that have lost somebody, neighbors. I mean, in this neighborhood alone it's happened, where we live. And is it necessary? Really? Is it necessary? So looking at the next set of numbers real quick, and I'm not going to, dwell on all these numbers. I just want you to know and be aware of them. This next chart is suicide by age. And if you look at the chart, it starts at 10 to 14, and it's 517 deaths. And I don't remember the year that this was pulled, but just look at the numbers, right? 45 to 54 is 8,561. Now, if you add all these numbers, it doesn't add up to 72,820 that I gave you before, because these are probably pulled from a different year. So that's what I mean about it not being exact, but even so, I think if you add these up, it's a little less than 72,000, but it's 60-something thousand. It's still way high, right? So look at that. 15 to 24 is 6,252. That's also unacceptable. And just the fact that we're even talking about ages 10 to 14, and it's already above 500, and there, it doesn't publish numbers under 10, probably because that's too difficult for anybody to even read. But this little boy that I read about was 9. And finally, one more chart is showing there's going to be a straight white line going down the middle, and anything to the left is a drop in the current year compared to the last year, and anything to the right is a rise in the current year compared to the last year. And if you look, it says that the overall numbers have gone down, right? And probably because of COVID. Maybe most people are happy to be home, and I say most people because divorce rates are astronomical right now. People want to kill each other. But other than that, kids are happy to be home with their parents and spending time with their parents. Parents are happy to be home with their kids. So it seems like, for the most part, suicide has gone down, except among the young. The young, it has gone up 13%, and that's between the ages of 10 to 14, again. Which probably goes to show, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but it goes to show that kids need interaction. They need to be playing around and running and chasing each other. Even if there's a little bit of, cruelty amongst kids, and we all dealt with it growing up. But it's important, right? It's very important that our kids get around. So, am I poking a stab at anybody that's homeschooling the kids? That's up to you. I'm not getting in your life. I'm not getting involved in that, and I'm not telling you what to do. But kids need a lot of interaction. I did when I was a kid. And I loved being out and being in school where I, learned about different cultures and kids and their attitudes and their everything, right? And their languages just by hearing them. That was so important to me, and I think it shaped me, it cultured me, it made me, whatever the word you want to use, right? More cosmopolitan, whatever it is. But we all learn that way, and you can see these numbers reflect that. So we're done with the charts. Like I said, I didn't want to dwell on this stuff. Now, what I want to get into is, what are some of the reasons that people take their life, right? I know we've heard of some of them. Let me go through these. I did some research and I wrote the more popular ones down, right? There's a history of suicidal thoughts. And where does that come from? It could start early. So bullying would start that off, where you're thinking, maybe I should just kill myself and this way I won't have to deal with this. And once you start thinking that and becoming comfortable with it, it may go on into your later years where you start thinking that way when your life gets complicated, when you lose somebody, when you lose your job, when you lose your house, whatever. One of the other reasons was crisis in the past or in the upcoming 2 weeks. So this is back to, that you're going to lose your home, that you're going to lose your job, or you're going through a crisis right now, right? Somebody tapped you on the shoulder and gave you a box and said, thanks for, 15, 20 years of service, here's the door, good luck. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Something happened 2-3 months back, you lost somebody and you just can't get over it, right? Losing a child, Anyway, there are so many things that can be going on in our lives that would cause us to think of, taking our own life. Intimate partner problems, that's another category. And the first thing I thought of was, breakups. Those hit people hard. They've hit me hard when I was young, right? You become a little hardened over the years with age. But then I realized that's not just breakups. There's physical abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. There's all kinds of stuff happening in relationships. And some people end up being victims, right? So that's very valid. Physical health problems is another big category, right? From the more straightforward things like you lose a limb or you lose an eye or you lose something and you feel insignificant or insufficient, to really complicated things like, some people are fighting cancer over and over again. They fight it, they defeat it, and then 2 years later it comes back, and they fight it and defeat it, and 2 years later it comes back, and it almost takes them, but it doesn't, and that's tiring, right? I understand. I understand all of this, right? And I just want to put these out there so that the people that are either thinking these negative thoughts, right, about their own life, or the people that are curious and just watching this video because they want to know more about it, or because they know somebody that either took their life, or they know somebody who's going through a depressed state and want to help them. This video is for everybody, basically, right? So whether you're on this video because you're thinking these negative things, or because you're trying to learn to help others, doesn't matter. This video that's the whole purpose, just to give us a little knowledge, give us some numbers that we understand what's going on, and then of course give us some ideas to help other people. Note that I've published the 800 number for the suicide hotline. Please, it doesn't hurt to write that down somewhere and keep it with you. 800-273-8255. I'm even going to put it in my wallet after that, and we'll go into this section next, but just know it's there and jot it down somewhere and keep it with you. Not just because you might need it, but because for yourself, but because you might need it for somebody else that you love and care about. Alcohol dependence is, believe it or not, broken out from, what's the other one? Other substance problems, so they're different. They're not lumped into one because alcohol in itself is so big. And so I'm not giving you any of the numbers. These came with statistics. I don't want to go into all that. Alcohol alone was half of the suicides, and then all the other drugs and substance abuses were the other half. So that tells you how powerful alcohol is in this whole equation. And the other one that was very high, we talked about a little bit, was job problems. People losing the job, not coping in their job, abuse from a boss and they can't take it, so many things. So the methods, they also came with statistics. We're not going to dwell on these, because again, the whole point is not to make this a somber, morbid video. It's to let us all know that these things are happening and what are they about and what are the methods and what are the reasons, right? So the main methods are firearms. Like I said, they came with statistics that show how many people that use these methods are successful percentage-wise. And firearms was one of the highest percentages, right? At about 82% success rate. But we're not going to cover the rest of the numbers. So drowning or submersion, suffocating or hanging, poison by gas, jumping, and I'm guessing poison by gas is when people do the whole thing in the garage with the car, but it could be at home as well. Jumping, I'm assuming from a high area, drug, poison ingestion, cutting or piercing, and then other, right? So these are the main categories. It's not the only categories. People jump in front of moving vehicles, all kinds of things. New York, I've seen situations where people jump in front of a train. Could you imagine getting to the point where you can do that? This doesn't fit my mind, right? So if suicide has crossed your mind recently, or you're thinking about it now, please, 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 talk to somebody, right? I know sometimes I've been there. God, I get so bogged down with personal problems. I've been at the point, even living in this home, where I almost lost it. And I didn't feel like talking to my wife about it was right. We had just had our daughter, and my salary had gone down from the previous job to this job, and the house mortgage was bigger than my previous home. And then on top of that, the economy got bad in 2008. My little girl was born. We almost lost the house, and I felt like I wasn't being the man of the house if I had to admit to my wife that we were about to lose the house. I don't know what stupidity crossed me that I couldn't sit with my wife and share some of these problems so she can tell me, because she's really cool about that stuff, she can tell me it's going to be all right, we'll work it out together and we'll make this happen. She wasn't working, so we were both, she was at home, and I thought I was going to be at home soon, and that would have definitely, put us over. It was a tough time, and So I understand. I understand that people go through these things, right? But please talk to somebody. Don't do what I did, right? I bottled it all in, and I didn't know what to do, and I felt it making me anxious. I ended up in the hospital. Fortunately for me, I didn't think of, ending my life or anything like that, but it got me so sick that I ended up in the hospital. And that's bad too. That's bad. You don't want to go there, right? We can alleviate all that just by looking for somebody that we know cares about us. Everybody has somebody, right? Even if it's a long lost relative, a coworker, that will sit down and listen to us. You know what? And if you don't, find a way to communicate in the comments. Communicate with me. I'll talk to you. If really, because I know everybody's different, and everybody doesn't have the, I'm going to say, ginger peachy life that I've had, because yeah, I've had my share of crap. But I'm not going to compare myself to people that are really going through really, really tough times, right? Because I don't know what other people are going through, and I'm sure they're going through some really tough times. If you're one of those and you just feel like you have nobody to talk to, or people around you have given you signs that they don't give a crap, please reach out to me. At least I'll talk to you, I'll let you know how beautiful you are and how needed you are and how important you are, because you are, right? The title of this video says it all. I am enough. I am sufficient, right? But you got to believe that. You got to believe that, right? You got to believe that. It's got to come from the heart. You got to know it. You are so loved and cherished by somebody. Here's the thing. Sometimes we get so bogged down in our own problems, we don't stop to notice who out there cares about us, because we're not thinking about those things. We don't really give a crap, right? We're just drowning in our problems and we don't know what to do. And there are people out there that would extend their arm out to us, their hand, and would give us a hand. But we're not paying attention. So please, think about who you can reach out to if you're going through this, if you're having negative thoughts, if you're thinking about suicide or ending your life. Please think about who you can talk to. A family member, a friend, a coworker, a neighbor. If that doesn't exist, you have the number for the 800 hotline. They are professionals. They know what to do. And these people actually do care. And if that doesn't work for you, if you have a conversation and you're not convinced, reach out to me, please. Please, please. Okay? See, we're all different, right? And the thought for me, the thought of leaving my loved ones behind to suffer, automatically rules out suicide, right? And I'm not going to judge anymore, because I learned that, and we learned that at the beginning, right? I'm not going to judge, I'm not going to blame, but, originally when I was younger, I used to say, who would think of suicide, right? If I take my life, my mom's going to cry herself probably to death, really, literally, and my dad would too, right? So I would be doing no justice to them. Now that I have a child and a wife, same thing, they're going to go through so many hardships. So, I used to think when I was younger, who would do something like this? It's so selfish. You're not caring about the people you leave behind. But I understand now that some problems are so big in our mind, right? And some people are drowning in 2 or 3 problems, or even more than that. And they just don't have the tools to solve these, or people to talk to help them. That at that point, your relatives, your loved ones, they're out of the picture. Look at people like Robin Williams, right? He has so many people that loved him. He was drowning in his own problems to the point where he stopped caring about that, and he just let the problems carry him away. So please don't let this happen to you. That's the whole purpose of this video, right? It's to listen to me babble, if you want to call it babble, and hopefully something will switch and say, he's right, he's right. Somebody out there will listen to me, and you know what? I am important, I am worth it, because you are. So I get all this, really. I get the fact that you might be wanting to do this, but it's not the right path. Don't think of yourself, this is the other thing, right? It's like such a cycle. Don't think of yourself any less because you're having these thoughts, these negative thoughts. It doesn't mean crap. Everybody's had them. I can guarantee you that. At one point or another. I had it when I was in college because I was disastrously studying hard and not doing well in my classes at first, and I didn't know what I was going to do. and it crossed my mind for a minute. That's when the whole thing about my parents came into my mind, and I said, screw it, I'm never going to do it. I can't do this kind of harm to people. But some people's problems are worse than their grades. There's abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's physical abuse, there's people are forced to leave their homes and live in the street, and man, some of these things are really, really big problems, and people end up thinking there's no solution. But there always is a solution. But you got to talk to somebody first. To everyone else that is just watching this for information, or to help a loved one, or to have, a tool in their pocket to maybe help a loved one, or need some, just some facts about what's going on and some numbers to get an idea. The only thing I ask of you is to be aware of those around you. Be aware of your neighbors. Be aware of your co-workers. Be aware of your family and your friends, the people you care about. If they're a certain way for a while and then they end up acting a different way, ask them, what's going on? You used to be jolly. The past couple of months you've been so happy. It's a pleasure being around you, but right now you seem like the world is on your shoulders. You want to talk about it? Let's go out to lunch. I'll treat you to lunch. Anything. Have a talk with them. Go have coffee with them. Sit in the park. Invite them over. Have a drink. Whatever, right? Cook a little meal for them. It does many things. It makes them realize that there are people that care, and that's a big one. Again, there are some people that have no one to talk to. It also gives them ideas. You might have some good ideas to share, and they weren't even aware of these. But more importantly, it surrounds them with love, with care, with somebody who understands and is willing to listen, right? That's why I'm releasing this video now. It's one of the reasons, because I also read a statistic that around holidays, suicide rates tend to go up because people get depressed and lonely and they can't be with their loved ones, or they don't feel they have loved ones, or they don't feel they have people that care for them. And to make it worse, they see people hugging and holding hands and walking in the streets and exchanging gifts, and they have nobody. And if the problems are bad and they don't feel they have a solution, and then on top of that you see everybody else having a good time, it's understandable. I get it. I really do. So take the time to call your family often, your loved ones. I'm guilty in every aspect of this. I have friends I haven't called in years. Please, don't be me. Don't be me. Not mean, but don't be me. Call your friends, call your loved ones, write it in your planner. Or once a month I want to call them, once every 2 months, it doesn't matter. Just, hey, I miss you, I just want to talk to you, I want to hear your voice. Tell me what's going on. It matters. It really, really matters. I love it when somebody says it to me. And if we have children, we have a complete responsibility to make sure they're well. And that includes communicating with them all the time, asking tough questions. What's going on with your friends? Are there any friends that worry you? Are there any friends doing stupid things that you don't like? I had that conversation with my daughter recently, and we learned things that we weren't expecting to hear. But it's good, because then you can go out, grab a bite, grab some ice cream, and talk about it. And what I realize is that now my daughter comes to me and tells me things that she probably wouldn't have. We didn't have that conversation. So open your mind, open your ears. The last thing you want to do when a kid comes to you and tells you about a friend that's doing something is to start yelling at him. I told you not to hang around with that dirtbag. And no, that's not the time to do that. The time to do that is I don't know what the time to do that is, but that's definitely not the time. Right there, what you want to do, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but a little bit of common sense plays here too. What you want to do is say, sit down, tell me about it. I'm all ears. I didn't know this was happening. Educate me, teach me what's going on in your life, right? And then you try to associate, right? Oh my gosh, don't feel so bad. I had friends like that too when I was growing up, right? Or I have some friends that are like that now. You want to build trust with your kids. You want to build respect. You want to build a friendship. Yes, I tell my daughter all the time when we're going through one of those situations where I'm, reprimanding her or whatever, and she says, especially when she was younger, you're not my friend. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be your friend. I'm supposed to be your parent first and your friend second, right? So sometimes we need to remind our children of that, but we need to be there for them. We need to listen, and we need to give them good advice. There's absolutely no reason, and I mean this, and this is without judgment or blame, there's absolutely no reason that 9-year-old kids in our society or any freaking country should be taking their life. No reason whatsoever. I mean, if the parents are so evil that the kid is doing it because of them, then the parents need to go to jail, right? But no kid should be bullied enough, upset enough, depressed enough to take their life. So this is what we have to figure out. We need to start paying attention to our children. And remember, if we educate, I gotta remember this too, by the way, this is as much for me as it is for you, right? If we educate our children to be good communicators, this is going to help them all through their life, right? So if we can talk them through some hardships when they're children and they're getting bullied or whatever, then when they're in their 20s and they're going through their first job and maybe are getting fired or because something didn't work out or losing their apartment or their car, these thoughts don't enter their mind because they're going to pick up the phone, hey dad, hey mom, or hey friend, you know, this is what happened to me. And then, because they're used to talking and venting and getting it out, right? This is how they've solved the problem all along. It's going to continue into their 40s, 50s, 60s, where they lose their loved one, they lose their home. They're still not thinking about this stuff because they've been communicating all along, and because they are, like what I mentioned earlier, they don't want to hurt the people they love, right? So those things become important because they've been dealing with them all along. But let me end this now. I don't want to go on for an hour talking about this. This is already a depressing topic. I just want to make everybody aware. Please know your worth. You're worth a lot more than you know. And you're worth a lot more than you give yourself credit for. Especially if you're one of those people that are thinking negative thoughts, right? For everybody that doesn't have these negative thoughts at all or often, be aware that people are going through hardships. People are going through shit that you and I don't understand. So don't blame, first of all, don't blame anybody because the problem is probably way bigger than you and I can comprehend, right? That's the last thing we want to do is start blaming. And don't judge, right? That's not what people that are going through this, that's the last two things they need in their life is blame and judgment. Gone, right? We got to put that aside. The first thing we want to do is listen. Sorry for that. We want to listen and we want to help. Those are the two things we want to do, right? So how do we help? We send them over to one of the people that in their family that they're closer to that may make a better connection. If we're a good friend, then we listen to them till as much as we can, as much as we have to, and speak when you need to speak. Otherwise, you just listen, right? Sometimes that's all people need. Keep that 800 number handy. If you see things are getting bad, then that's the recommendation you make. If something's already happened or you think it's going to get bad really soon, then you call the 800 number yourself and find out what you can do. You know, just be there. Be there. If we're not one of the people that are going through this, be there for people that are. I hope that this video at least, you know, woke up a few people, put some, you know, a little bit of information in your minds, and just gave you something at least to be able to handle the situation without so much shock if it ever does happen around you or you know somebody who's thinking about something like this. If you're going through this yourself, please, first of all, I am so sorry that you're going through whatever you're going through. And I told you, if you can't find anybody to communicate with, if the 800 line is not what you thought, please contact me however you can. And I'll remind you how special you are, how much you are loved, and how much I love you, even though I don't know you. I ended here by saying, I hope you've had a good year. If you're one of those that is not having a good year, I hope that this coming year is so much better for you. Whether you've had a tough year or a decent year, I hope this next year brings you more prosperity, health, wealth, happiness, love, things that maybe you didn't get enough of in 2021, maybe things that you got plenty of. I wish more for you in 2022. If you're randomly listening to this 3 years from now in the middle of July, I hope the next 365 days are more beautiful than the last 365. And if you tell me, Juan, my last 365 days were awesome, I hope the next year is even better. I love you guys, always, from the bottom of my heart. I don't know what to say at this point. This is a terrible topic. I'm sorry we have to even go there. This is a photography channel. We didn't discuss anything about photography, but we all need to be reminded that this is happening. Please look out for everybody around you and take care of yourselves. And until the next time, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.